My beloved child, pause for a moment and breathe. Let your heart become still, because sometimes the most important message is not the loudest one, but the one that reaches you when everything around you is quiet. You may have arrived here because a title caught your attention, because something inside you told you not to scroll away, or simply because you were searching for hope at a moment when you needed it most. Whatever brought you here, take this moment as an invitation to slow down and listen to the words with an open heart. Imagine this message as a spiritual reminder, a gentle expression of faith and encouragement, rather than a warning that something terrible is destined to happen. You do not need to be afraid. You do not need to panic. You do not need to believe that you will be punished if you close this message or that some supernatural disaster will happen within 5 minutes. Your worth is not measured by how quickly you respond to a video. Your future is not controlled by a countdown. And your blessings do not disappear because you decided to rest, breathe, or walk away. Instead, let the image of Michael, the archangel traditionally associated with courage, protection, and strength, remind you of something beautiful. There are moments in life when you must stand up again, even after disappointment has tried to convince you that you should stay down. There are moments when fear speaks loudly. But faith speaks quietly and says, "You are still here. You still have another chance. You are not finished." Perhaps something serious really is coming into your life, but seriousness does not always mean tragedy. Sometimes the serious thing coming is a serious change in your mindset. Sometimes it is a serious decision that you have delayed for too long. Sometimes it is the serious realization that you deserve better than what you have been accepting. Sometimes it is the serious beginning of healing after years of carrying emotional weight. Sometimes it is a new responsibility, a new opportunity, a new relationship, a new direction, or simply a new version of yourself. Do not automatically assume that what is coming must hurt you. Life contains surprises, and not every surprise is a storm. Some surprises arrive disguised as closed doors. Some arrive disguised as endings. Some arrive as uncomfortable conversations that finally free you from confusion. Some arrive as opportunities that initially frighten you because they require you to become more courageous than you have ever been. So if you have been feeling that something is changing around you, do not immediately surrender to fear. Instead, become attentive. Ask yourself what needs to change within you. Ask what you have been avoiding. Ask what your heart has been trying to tell you. Ask whether there is a dream you stopped pursuing because someone convinced you that it was impossible. Ask whether there is forgiveness you need to offer, either to another person or to yourself. Ask whether you have been holding on to something simply because you are afraid of what life might look like without it. My beloved child, you have survived days you once believed you could never survive. You have walked through moments that left you wondering whether your heart would ever feel peaceful again. You have smiled while carrying things that nobody else knew about. You have continued even when you did not have all the answers. You have awakened on mornings when yesterday's pain was still sitting beside you, and somehow you still got up. That is strength. You may not recognize it because you are accustomed to your own survival. But there is strength in you that deserves to be acknowledged. There is courage in the fact that you are still searching for meaning. There is courage in the fact that you still hope. There is courage in the fact that some part of you still believes tomorrow can be different from yesterday. And perhaps that is the message you needed today. Do not confuse a difficult season with a defeated life. A difficult chapter is not the entire story. A delay is not always a denial. A closed door is not proof that you have been abandoned. A painful ending is not evidence that you have no future. Sometimes the path changes because the destination requires a version of you that you have not yet become. You may have prayed for an answer and received silence. You may have asked for a sign and found uncertainty. You may have begged for a particular person to return, a particular opportunity to appear, or a particular problem to disappear, and nothing seemed to change. But silence does not mean that your life has no purpose. Sometimes silence creates the space in which you finally hear yourself. Sometimes you are asking for an immediate answer when what you really need is the wisdom to make your own next decision. Faith is not the promise that everything will happen exactly as you imagined. Faith is the strength to continue when you do not know exactly how everything will unfold. So today, release the demand to know every detail. You do not have to know what will happen next week. You do not have to know who will stay forever. You do not have to know exactly how your financial situation, relationship, career, family situation, or personal journey will unfold. You only need to know what the next honest step is. Take that step. Then take another. That is how mountains are crossed. That is how healing begins. That is how new lives are built. You may have been waiting for a miracle so dramatic that there could be no doubt it came from heaven. But sometimes miracles are quiet. Sometimes a miracle is waking up with a little more peace than yesterday. Sometimes it is finally saying no without guilt. Sometimes it is having the courage to leave an unhealthy situation. Sometimes it is receiving an apology you never expected. Sometimes it is realizing you no longer need the apology. Sometimes it is meeting someone who treats your heart with gentleness. Sometimes it is discovering a talent you had ignored. Sometimes it is simply realizing that you are capable of beginning again. Do not underestimate small beginnings. A seed does not look like a forest. A first step does not look like a journey. A single decision does not look like a transformed life. But everything significant begins somewhere. Perhaps this is your somewhere. Perhaps this moment can become the point where you stop living entirely through fear of what might happen and start living with courage about what you can do. If the name Michael brings you comfort, let it represent protection, courage, discipline, and the willingness to stand firmly in what is good. Picture yourself standing at the edge of an old chapter while a new chapter waits ahead. You may feel uncertain because the old chapter is familiar. Even painful familiarity can feel safer than an unknown future. But familiar does not always mean healthy. Familiar does not always mean destined. Familiar does not always mean where you belong. Sometimes you remain in the same place because you have become accustomed to the pain, not because the place is right for you. You have learned how to survive there, and now you must learn how to live somewhere better. That transition can feel frightening. Give yourself permission to be afraid without allowing fear to make your decisions. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward while fear is present. There may be something serious coming into your life, but let it be a serious awakening. Let it be the moment when you become serious about protecting your peace. Let it be the moment when you become serious about your goals. Let it be the moment when you become serious about becoming emotionally mature. Let it be the moment when you stop chasing people who repeatedly demonstrate that they do not value your presence. Let it be the moment when you stop begging circumstances to become different and start asking yourself what you can change. You cannot control another person's heart. You cannot force someone to understand you. You cannot make someone love you correctly. You cannot guarantee that every plan will succeed. But you can control your honesty. You can control your effort. You can control the boundaries you establish. You can control whether you keep learning. You can control whether you continue becoming a better person. And that is where your power begins. My beloved child, do not let one person's rejection become your definition. Rejection can hurt deeply, but rejection is information, not identity. Someone saying no to you does not mean the entire world has said no to you. Someone leaving does not mean everyone will leave. Someone failing to appreciate you does not mean you have no value. Someone misunderstanding you does not mean you are impossible to understand. There are people who will recognize what others overlooked. There are places where your gifts will make sense. There are communities where your presence will be appreciated. There are opportunities you have not encountered yet. So do not close the book because one page broke your heart. Keep reading. Keep becoming. Keep moving. The future has not been completely written, and you are still participating in its creation through the choices you make today. Perhaps you are worried about money. Perhaps you feel behind. Perhaps you compare your life to people who seem to have everything figured out. Remember that comparison is one of the fastest ways to make yourself blind to your own progress. You see someone else's finished-looking picture while you are standing inside your own unfinished process. You do not know their private struggles, their doubts, their sacrifices, or their failures. And they do not know yours. Stop measuring your worth using someone else's timeline. Your journey may be slower because you are learning something they did not have to learn.